started just 3 years ago, 4 years ago, with the people who had done the sanctuary movement. And so Ann Wright was the one who really told me about it. She says, instead of going to go break and all that, instead of going back to, there's 20,000 people that are going to go to Fort Benning, why don't you go to Fort Huachuca? They need some people down there. And we went there, and there were about 130 people or so. And then we just went with the letter. She told us about General Barbara Fast, who had been the one in charge of the interrogators at Abu Ghraib. Very sad to think of that, but enhanced interrogation, excuse me. And she was sent to Abu Ghraib to teach more strongly enhanced interrogations, torture, known as torture to the rest of us, waterboarding and all that sort of stuff. And then she was slipped out. General Takuba told us about, he did the report for the Army, and he told us about how that he was sent there to investigate at Abu Ghraib, but he was a 2-star general, and guess what? So was Barbara Fast. And if you want to be a general investigating another general, you got to have a star up. How about that, huh? You got to have an extra star there. So he didn't. So he could only interview Janice Krupinski, who was a 1-star general, but she was the head of the military police, and it's really the interrogators who were calling the shots there. So she was the one really calling the shots. Pulled her out, sent her back to Abu Ghraib, which is the headquarters for teaching interrogators, so they could develop more enhanced techniques, aka torture. And so we went to try to see what could we do and what could we find out. And fortunately, we really didn't know. We were 8 miles from the border. When they arrested us, they took us down into kind of a dungeon where they had all this electronic stuff and all that. And we were thinking, uh-oh, we may be out of here in a very few minutes and across the border, and who knows where we'll end up. But there's a lot of that that goes on in America, and we don't really know it and see it, and yet we have the power to raise that question. But even though the courts tried to stop us, and we couldn't do necessity defense, we couldn't do anything else, Bill managed to have Bill Debbie come hauling in. Well, this is the evidence we'd like to introduce, and then spend 3-4 hours going through what each of those reports said about what kind of torture went on from the Army's own report and from the Red Cross's report and ACLU and other bodies, and the picture was very clear. So it was a pleasure, it was a privilege to be able to witness in that way. When I went with School of the Americas after I got out, I guess it's the second time, 06, and go pink. Medea is always such a nice person. She says, "Oh, you need a vacation after you did it. Why don't you come with us to it? We're going to do. Wouldn't you like to do a little month-long fast in front of the White House?" Actually, I always wanted to fast in front of the White House. The joke about it is she wouldn't let me fast. She was always after me. Eat. But we had a very fine time there. But at the end, we were trying to convince our Democratic Congress people and who else would listen to make the issue in 06, to make the issue of the elections about stopping funding the war. And so we worked hard to convince them, and they didn't even want to raise the issue because they thought that would make them lose the election. And they kept saying that the people from Iraq didn't want us to leave. And so we said, well, they want us to come over to Iraq and convince us that they do want us to leave, quite frankly. And anyway, we didn't get any Congress people, but we got some representatives, and we went to Jordan, and we met with representatives, and we met with the Shiites and the Sunnis and the Kurds, and everyone had the same, just as we would have if somebody was occupying, San Francisco today, is please get in your boats or whatever else you have and get out of here, please leave. And that was very genuine. But the striking part that struck me the most, because I'm not that involved politically, internationally, but what struck me is that we also met people who had been at Abu Ghraib. And what was really unbelievable to them is when somebody told them that I had just gotten out of prison, because the first time I went to prison at Fort Benning, I was only thinking of Latin American people who were tortured, Archbishop Romero killed, and the nuns, and the Jesuits, and many people, as many of you have gone down there, many citizens that were in villages or who came up here in sanctuary, and we heard their stories. And so that's what I told the judge, that's why I'm following following the funeral procession because I know some of those people. And then when I met these fellows from Abu Ghraib, and saw that they could not believe, all they saw is we were the people that put them there and that tortured them. And they could not believe that there were people who cared. And this one person, he just cried and cried. When we finally got through to him, and then he begged us. We were going on to Syria, to Damascus, and he was going to be there. He begged us to let him bring his family and have breakfast for us and tell his family and his children how we had been willing to pay a price for that. But it wasn't all a one good side story, because we met refugees there from Iraq. It was when the Lebanon war was going on too. And one family, some of the women said, "Oh, this is very exciting. One of the mothers just had a baby. Come and see the baby." And that happened to me on the way back from Honduras to El Salvador. We were coming across the bridge, and we were stopped there because of the Americans that were with the people. Our embassy people told them, "Don't let them come in." But while we were stopped there, this little baby was born. They named her Esperanza, hope. It was the hope. And so I thought, well, this baby is kind of a sign of hope, and we wanted to go see the baby. Ann Wright was with me. And we went there, and then the father came in and said, "Please," told the person who brought us there, he's in Iraq, "Get them out here, get them out here. I can't stand to have them there with my baby." Well, I can understand that. I can understand that if you've gone through what he'd gone through. So there we are, and that is a privilege. That is just a privilege to me to have these opportunities to try to just put some more human touch into our world. And I feel very grateful that I've been able to do that at the School of the Americas, and able to do that through Fort Huachuca, and the family just grows. I mean, my God, they cannot believe it. They just cannot believe the amount of letters that we get when we're in prison. No, but I mean, almost all the mail came to me. If anybody wanted their letter, they had to come to me to get it, because it was buried in all my mail. Not to mention books. You only have 5 books and 10 letters or something. They gave up on that. Till the lieutenant brought Martin Sheen to come in, or Ramon Estevez, excuse me. He came in as Ramon Estevez. He came down into the cell, and the lieutenant said, "My God, this is a library." So I had to move some of the stuff out. But he helped to spread the word too, and it's getting the word out. So I am very committed now to the idea of, as much as, this kind of showing off here. And I think God gave me a little fall that after my first appearance in Berkeley with Joanna Macy and lots of nice applause and everything, 3 days later I fell in the immersion pool and broke my shoulder and my arms. I've kind of limping around since, but I still managed to keep my mouth going. I'm way over my 15 minutes. Judy, are you the one keeping time for you? Okay. Let me just say that I don't want to, I kind of, work over and over what I'm going to say, and then I never quite stick to it. But I don't want to skip without just saying how I really felt, and I felt this time the most, I guess, a real unity with the prisoners, so-called. And Gandhi says this, that as part of the way of liberation, that it's not just that you might go to prison, because you have people come down and go to prison and go home. But he said you have to really identify with the prisoners. And I really felt this the 3 or 4 times now that I've done these, like the School of the Americas and all that. I felt, this time I really felt that. But it was I didn't realize till I got out that we were first in Florence, between Tucson and Phoenix, and 3,700 people. It's a contract prison. It's like all this stuff in Iraq. 37 these contract companies. I hate to say if there's a riot there, I don't want to be around, because those guards were so out of shape. I think they 3 times retired, and then they opened this new prison. They were just packed with people, and of course they were almost all from Mexico. And they were almost all there because of that so-called arbitrary line between what is Mexico and what is the United States. And there in Florence, the word went out, it's picking season and we need workers. And so they came, and as soon as they got across, the green buses were there. ICE was out to get them, and they were loaded every floor. Was covered with mats with people on them. But the thing that was very powerful about it was